Hi, well, this week I have to start the Labour Wrap with a suggestion that comes from a viewer and reader, Doug Harris. Very good suggestion of his, and that is that we need to prioritise job creation. Couldn't agree more. He points out that Labour Wrap shouldn't just be about trade unions. I didn't think it was, but if it has orientated that way, I do apologise. He's very right about this, but what he does suggest is we have a separate branch of Labour Wrap in which everybody can contribute ideas about job creation. I'll take that up with whoever is responsible, but I think, we have the comments column below, and if you want to respond in any sort of length, well, you can communicate with me directly via editor@fin24.com. I promise you I will read everything. I will actually publicize good suggestions, and I won't just throw out suggestions because I think they're not up to it. I'll put forward all the suggestions and we'll run them on these platforms. I think it's an exceptionally good idea at this stage, particularly with a number of mine jobs that are now threatened and jobs in the steel industry as well. And we've seen the social and economic consequences, the disastrous consequences of job losses. We should say this should never happen. Just as over this week, the big slogan, of course, was never again over Marikana. But jobs, without jobs, we have a tremendous social and economic knock-on effect. We've seen some of it. I don't think we in the media have done enough to show what the consequences are. We've seen Aurora, for example, what's happened to those workers there. And this week, I heard from Solly Petwe, the regional secretary in the northwest of COSATU, and this is something we're checking out now, that several hundred men who were retrenched 6 years ago are still living rough in the bush, as he put it, eating grass and hunting rats for food. Now, that is one of the sort of consequences of job losses in this sort of society. But that is something you can deal with your suggestions for job creation. What struck me this week was on the education front. The introduction, or the announced introduction by Angie Motshekga, the Basic Education Minister, of what she called Mandarin and the language of Confucius, which I found a bit confusing, into schools as an optional subject. That in itself was interesting, but then there was a reaction of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SADTU. They were vehemently opposed and in fact called this colonialism, Chinese colonialism. Now, that's a real turn-up for the books because SADTU has been traditionally, historically, one of the government's most loyal supporters, and its former General Secretary, who still has a lot of influence in COSATU, Thulus Nxesi, is the Deputy Chair of the Communist Party, as well as being a minister in government. But the Communist Party, of course, has very close relations with its fraternal party in China, the Chinese Communist Party, which is in government there. So it's a real turn-up for the books. And I thought this was something we should look at because we have had the term colonialism bandied about in South Africa for a long time. That rather strange sort of creation, colonialism of a special type, which is something adopted by the Communist Party, but also by a lot of the trade unions, particularly within COSATU. So I thought it's intriguing, it's worth a look at, and that's what I will focus in my column, Inside Labour, which you can read on this platform tomorrow, and on Sunday, the City Press business section. But that doesn't mean you should forget about Doug Harris's suggestion, which I wholly endorse, and that is, let's hear about ideas for job creation. How can we get out of the mess we're in? You may have some ideas. Politicians may even listen. So there you have it. You can comment on the issue of Mandarin Chinese into schools and the whole idea of SADTU and colonialism, but also, perhaps more importantly in the long run, on how to create jobs. Well, it's over to you. The comment section, as you know, is below, and you can always communicate, as I've said before, to me directly via editor@fin24.com. And for this week, that's all from me. Cheers.